Hello everybody, Andrew Casey at Hypersanity Audiobooks. Today I'm looking at Bruce Campbell's book, If Chins Could Kill. I quite enjoyed this book, and as an audiobook, there is an amazing amount of commentary at the end of the book itself to how his book journey went, as far as signing autographs, travelling across country, and there's so much information within this book that I can't touch on too much within it because it does have a lot within this book. I recommend this as an audiobook to give a go, especially if you are into the Evil Dead franchise. For now, we'll just get into it. Number 1. Super 8 films. Now, I've never heard the terminology Super 8 before. I've heard of the movie Super 8, but I didn't realise that there was such a connection to B-grade movies or independent films. There is something more about the beginning of this process that shows an appreciation. With the beginning of the book, yes, it touched on his early childhood, but moving forward, I found there was something of an appreciation through the trial and error phase, and it's the same for authors. You might go through so many words and books that you publish and don't publish, and it's just getting more experience. And this is a good starting point, is getting through so much experience to trial and error before you get onto a bigger project. Number 2, The Evil Dead. It was an interesting topic that it touched on. There were different challenges between the use of the word Necronomicon. There were a lot of challenges, and it's better to hear it within the audiobook for yourself. Though with Evil Dead, it was an interesting movie to start off a bigger career. And for B-grade films, this was a good place to start. And there was some history within the cabin where the real story takes. But I'll play this little bit of audio because it was quite disturbing, this particular fact.
This was no ordinary cabin. There was something of a history to the old place. In the 30s, so the story goes, a young girl named Clara lived in the cabin with her family. One night, a terrible thunderstorm swept through the valley. During that storm, her parents were both brutally and inexplicably murdered. Our stunned girl, escaping that grim fate, wandered aimlessly until she was taken in by neighbors. To this day, apparently, every time there was a terrible storm, Clara would wander from the Morristown Manor rest home looking for her parents. She was found just days before we arrived, wandering in the hills behind our cabin. Now that's creepy, folks. Well,
Number 3, investment. The extents to get investment, the budget was $150,000, and to standards back then, that was a lot of money. So, what do? You start off with family, and then your friends, and your friends' family, and you start to go back out from there to eventually get back to your family again. Though, some of the different stories that he told, getting investment from dentists, watching a football game with some people. There are others who invested into the Evil Dead project without ever watching it. There was also a bigger point on return of investment to get their money back or double their money. But there are other risk factors that needed to be put into legally binding contracts. And some of the different points that he touched on within the book made it fascinating to read and also quite inspiring.
And should be considered only by an investor who has no plans to resell this security and fully and adequately understands the risk involved and can afford to lose his entire investment. Really instills confidence, doesn't it?
Number 4, cult status. Evil Dead, it made its cult status 6 years later, and that's where investors got their return on investment, being 100% markup of their initial investment. And from here, yes, he also put himself into the new form of genre to have a career path moving forward. And I think with the Evil Dead franchise, it went into so many categories. Even though this book was written in 2001, there is so much that happened with the Evil Dead franchise even since then. But there's an appreciation that you hear with what they went through with the makeup, the filmmaking. And there was another point he touched on with doing different workshops of filmmaking, that actors should do it. And it shows an appreciation to every person that he worked in with. And I think Bruce Campbell seems like someone who would be easy to work in with on a number of projects. Number 5, personal conflicts. With his life, yes, he was married with a couple kids and came towards an inevitable divorce. He was willing to throw it all away and focus on keeping his marriage, but by then it felt like it was too late. And that's some of the biggest sacrifice. I also feel, even though there was certain points on Hollywood parties, networking, I didn't feel that Bruce Campbell went the wrong way with things, and through the different years of his career, I think he stayed pretty well down to earth, and it's just sad that your marriage comes to an end. However, there are a lot of sacrifices that come with success, and then there are some other people who are supportive of those long-term ventures, where he got remarried later on and made a go of things. So within his personal life, I'm glad that he did disclose certain things within the book, and I think he did it respectfully. Number 6, sequels.
See this? This is my boomstick!
Evil Dead 2 was a phenomenal hit. A lot of people actually prefer it as one of their preferred movies. I grew up with the Army of Darkness and I still love it today. I also played a lot of Army of Darkness campaigns with Dungeons & Dragons. I did own a couple of the figurines years ago. Some of the different nostalgia. I also enjoyed some of the comic. From here, Sam Raimi got a bigger break. He got his bigger opportunity to do the Army of Darkness. And there were some points with the filmmaking where Bruce Campbell was honest how Sam Raimi could be almost derogative in certain ways when it came to how many frames to do certain shots with the sword work. And I sort of didn't like Sam Raimi within this audiobook, just being honest. However, a lot of his work I do appreciate. And from this stepping stone, it put into a new market where Sam Raimi was becoming a bigger director because of the Army of Darkness.
Little goody two-shoes.
Number 7, Sam Raimi. I enjoyed the Army of Darkness, and one of his more recent works, I enjoyed The Unholy. And for the Christians that do follow this channel and some of my other channels with book-related subjects, no matter what we do in life, there was one point that he made within this film which he put in together. No matter what we do in our life, God gives us a chance of redemption. And that was one of the biggest points of The Unholy that came forward for the main character to take responsibility to turn things around, and he got his redemption story. And I will always appreciate Sam Raimi's work for it. With the audiobook, yeah, there were times where I wasn't too fond of Sam Raimi, but I try to think, it's just the way that friends talked, and that's what Bruce Campbell made was clear. It's just the way that they talked, or it may have sounded derogative, that it's just the way sometimes friends got along, and there are different ways that they worked in together. Some of Sam Raimi's other works, I'm not too keen on Evil Dead Rise, or the Ash vs. Evil Dead. I did watch the series because of the nostalgia, but it was a bit too gory for me, and it was a bit to get through, but I did.
Klaatu, Verada,
Number 8, TV series.
Johnson the mighty, he's very tidy. Everyone admires him, he's so handsome it's a sin.
I enjoyed the Hercules series, and some of Xena I did enjoy. Bruce Campbell being in a bit of both was enjoyable. He also did work on set as a director for some of the different episodes, and even the season finale of Xena, he was in the final episode and talked about how much they had to do in post-production to the need for everyone to be involved because it was the wrap-up of the series. And when he explained how much film it required, the cost over so much time, he also touched on being in New Zealand, which is close to Australia, and he was quite accurate with a lot of things that he talked about within the book. So, yeah, I enjoyed listening to his perspective of things, and from here, the hard work that he put into, as he mentioned earlier within the book, he did film workshops and learnt different roles that people do within the industry, and he has a wide range of understanding of that industry. And even though there were some personal criticisms that came, why aren't you doing more in Hollywood? Why don't you move to these locations? I think with what he worked on, he spent the time just enjoying what he did. And I think as an author or as a writer or actor, you got to do what you're happy with. And yes, you do take some risks, but I think they were more calculated risks where there were hard days and there were better days. But mostly, it sounds like he has a lot of good days and a lot of good days yet to come. Number 9, freedom and success. Even though he had a lot of time with the book tour that took 6 months out of his time to different locations across country, I found that he made the time to do what he loves, and he has a lot of time for himself. I think that is a pinnacle of success. We do hear about success being in different forms to get towards the top, but I think he is happy and appreciates being a B-grade actor. And even though this book was written long ago, he's still well known today. And with a lot of his roles, you can just see that he enjoys doing what he loves. And I think that is more successful than anything. Number 10, thanking his fans. Through the audiobook, yes, he touches on emails that were negative and positive. There were a couple emails he touched on where some people were going to commit suicide, and watching a couple episodes of Briscoe made some people reconsider because of the heartwarming nature of the series. And then it made him think between something positive to something a bit more maybe negative tone with Evil Dead. But there are a lot of positive things that came out of his career. And even though the book is finished, there are so many points in the audiobook that touches on what happened after this book that you just listened to is done. And it touches on everything from book signings to the way handshakes are done and different types of handshakes. There's a lot of humour within how you travel across country, bumping into Tobey Maguire and Kristen Dunst at an event, and calling out a Spider-Man announcement just to get the flock of people to get in to harass him. So he has a sense of humour with what he worked on, and I enjoyed this audiobook. And I'm looking forward to listening to his next one. I've just purchased it, and I have an open mind to some other audiobooks. Also, that is just it for today. Hit like, subscribe, comment. If you do have any other books that you do recommend for audiobooks specifically, please let me know, and I'll have a look. Otherwise, I will see you all next time.